Well, kia ora everyone, and welcome to Rātana. It's been my first visit here, and I've just thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a great venue where you can actually have some honest conversation with each other, disagree without being disagreeable, and I think the best of New Zealand's here. So it's been wonderful. I hope you've all enjoyed some sun.
What did you make of their question about the statement you're not to be afraid of co-governance?
Oh, look, I mean, what I was trying to clarify today was, what I've clarified in April last year, which was just simply saying, look, co-governance has been messily handled and explained by this government because they haven't been upfront on such a big constitutional issue. They haven't taken people with them, and as a consequence, become increasingly divisive across New Zealand. And I was comparing and contrasting it with, say, the treaty settlements process, where there was real courage and real political capital, and real, we took people with us with Jim Bolger and Doug Graham's work in subsequent governments. And so, the contrast and starting point couldn't be any different. And what I'm trying to say very clearly is, we are not supportive of the co-governance and of the delivery of public services. I've been really clear about that for some time. But what we are highly supportive of is Māori success and improving Māori outcomes. We just don't believe that that's the right model by which to be able to achieve that.
What do you mean by the conversation has been immature around co-governance?
Well, it has been. It's been immature and divisive because essentially the Prime Minister hasn't come forward, spent her huge political capital making the case to the New Zealand people and taking them with her on it, and then having a decent debate and discussion about it. A bunch of people may understand it within her cabinet or caucus, but they haven't been able to articulate that to the New Zealand people. On constitutional matters like that, it's really important that you make the case, you spend your capital, and you take people with you.
How much responsibility do you and the National Party take for having an immature conversation about co-governance?
I think we've been very clear. Go back and look at my media interviews back in April last year. I've been really clear about laying it up about the confusion, talking about the fact that we have been very supportive under Article 2 of the treaty to say, look, we think there are great examples where there has been good co-management between local government and iwi in the context of treaty settlements around the management of natural resources. That's been really good. I talked today about the fact that whānau ora, kohanga reo, charter schools, they're all innovations that can be delivered through Māori organisations to deliver better outcomes, but within the coherence of a single system of delivery of public service.
Your party, though, have you whipped up any fear around co-governance?
No, I don't believe we have. No, I think we've been calling for a decent discussion about it, and the reality is the government, who has huge mandate, has not actually spent any of its capital, articulated what it's trying to do, and actually taken people with it. And as a result, we now have people who are being left behind, and it's complete confusion and division.
What election year? Will you have separate policies for Māori?
You'll see our policies for Māori as we roll through, but what I'd say to you is when you go look at Māori polling, what are the issues that are most important to them? The cost of living crisis, healthcare, crime, housing and education are the same top 5 issues for Māori as they are for non-Māori.
What about the COVID facts, people in injuries?
Sorry?
What about the COVID facts, injuries and people dying from the vaccine?
Look, I appreciate we may have different views about that. My view is I've been pro-vaccine. I think it's been a good thing. I appreciate that's not what you may want to hear, but it is our position.
On the Māori Health Authority, the government says that will improve Māori health and improve Māori life expectancy. We have specific policies. You obviously don't support the authority. We have specific policies aimed to do those same goals.
I dispute that. If you actually go through the official advice when the Māori Health Authority was formed, it was saying essentially for the next 5 years there is no single improvement to Māori health outcomes. That is unacceptable, particularly in the context of the last 5 years where there has not been a single improvement in any health outcome for any New Zealander across this country. We just can't let a decade go by where we don't get improved outcomes for Māori or for non-Māori. And so what I'm saying to you very clearly is, look, we are going to be in a turnaround situation when we come to government. The country is really is going backwards big time on a number of areas, and we're going to be very, very directive about making sure we make wait times available. We actually, can actually deliver better healthcare services to the front line rather than building massive bureaucracy in Wellington.
One of your MPs has liked a tweet from a Twitter account that's known to spread conspiracy theories around COVID that says Tyrant Jacinda Ardern has resigned. Is that appropriate?
I don't know about that. I'm happy to look into that, but from my point of view, I disagree completely.
Just on the
So you'd reprimand an MP if they like to tweet like that?
I don't know enough about the details. You need to let me know more context and details, and then I'll look at it and
They've
talk to them
also
about
liked a tweet saying that Jacinda Ardern deserved every bit of abuse she got. Is that the position of the National
Well, that's
Party?
utterly unacceptable. I think we need to be very respectful of the reasons the Prime Minister gave for why she resigned, and I think we don't want to put words into her mouth. I take her at her word for the rationale she gave, and I thought she was very articulate about it. It is an incredibly demanding and difficult job, and she's given it her absolute all, and so she deserves, really our thanks and our gratitude for that. And I've been really clear from that from day one, from when I first heard her announce her resignation. As I said at the time, the way that she handled the Christchurch terror attacks was exemplary. It made us all feel incredibly proud as New Zealanders, and proud of her and the way that she led it. And she's been a good ambassador for New Zealand on the global stage. So from my perspective, I wish her nothing but the very best. And I've also been trying to say very clearly is, look at Western democracies around the world at the moment. They've got incredibly polarised and divisive. We have a choice here in New Zealand about how we carry on our politics. And that's why what we've seen at Rātana today is actually really important. There were lots of different views expressed that were different from the Māori Party, from the National Party and from others, but it's actually what we want. We want respectful debate. We can disagree without being disagreeable. We have a great unique starting point in New Zealand. We know each other. We're highly accessible to the public. That's important. That doesn't exist in other countries around the world. So, I want us to disagree without being disagreeable. I've been trying to model that out as a leader in politics in the last 2 years, and I'll continue to do so. And I know the other side will do the same.
Just back on the co-governance issue,
Yep.
I mean, on the top of that list for most New Zealanders is Three Waters.
Yep.
Given the government has already passed one of, I think, 3 bills in that process, is it just too late for you or the government to turn that around? Chris Hipkins is talking about taking away or cutting any policy that's distracting focus. Is it just too late?
No, it's not too late, because those entities don't take formation until, I think, July next year. And so there's plenty of time to stop it, to repeal it, to make sure those assets stay in local control and ownership, and to work with councils to find the way through.
So that's your call to Chris Hipkins, Prime Minister Hipkins, is essentially just
look,
cut your losses at this stage with Three Waters.
That is deeply unpopular, and what you've had is a government that hasn't listened, at all. That hasn't made any alteration, any change. It's been a sham consultation process from beginning to end, and we end up, and the government's now ended up with the situation that it's got. Let's be clear, though. Chris Hipkins has been part of the holy trinity of the Labour Party for the last 6 years in government. It's been Jacinda Ardern, Grant Robertson and Chris Hipkins. So, the cynic in me comes out and says, well, yep, 9 months out from election, all of a sudden you want to change your tune and your language, and all of a sudden you're going to do this and going to do that, and you're going to focus on the economy miraculously 10 months to go before an election. It's not believable or credible.
Do you think
is
Jacinda
the celebration of TW Rātana the correct place to raise the korero that you did out there?
Yeah, I think it is, because it's actually been an issue when I've spoken with Māori, and I've been meeting with Māori, up and down the country, over the last year. That's been an issue that's been talked about, and I want to be really clear about it and provide a little bit more context about it, rather than have it simplistically understood as that we all understand what it is. The reality is, if we go out into New Zealand at the moment, you couldn't ask a New Zealander what we're talking about. They understand treaty settlements, the rationale for why. They understand the generosity of spirit on both sides. They understand what we're trying to achieve. They feel proud about that, because no other country on planet Earth has achieved anything like that. But on co-governance, it's been messy. The word's been misappropriated, thrown into a completely different context of centralised, bureaucratic public services.
And how much responsibility does perhaps not your National Party, but the National Party as a whole take for that? Think back to when Judith Collins was talking about people.
Well, I've been really clear. I can only talk from when I've become the leader, and I think if you go back and look at interviews, if I go back and look at it's a new National Party under new leadership, and the same.
A new government under new
Sorry.
leadership?
Sorry?
Isn't your argument about Chris Hipkins becoming the Prime Minister that it's exactly
But I wasn't part of a previous administration in the way I wasn't part of the top 3 of that leadership group or whatever. But what I'd say to you very clearly, no, what I'm saying to you really clearly is, look, the reality is that's a perfect place to put some context around it and start the conversation. There's more to have there.
There have been calls for Jacinda Ardern to get a diplomatic protection squad now that she's going into her next phase of life as not Prime Minister. Given the vitriol directed at her and the threats, do you think that she should have more protection for the time being?
It's ultimately a decision for the new Prime Minister, but from my personal perspective, I would be very supportive of that.
Why is that?
Because I've just observed, when I've seen political leaders around the world, I even observed former Prime Ministers of New Zealand, I think there is a period of time where that's probably entirely appropriate.
Just to understand your position on co-governance, please.
Sorry?
To understand your position on co-governance, what's the difference between the Māori Health Authority and Whānau Water? Why is one co-governance
governance, but won a show of national support for Māori?
Because essentially what we're talking about is under Article 3 of the treaty, we focus on things like health and education, infrastructure, justice systems. And what we're saying is that all New Zealanders, the treaty made us all equal, Article 3, that's what that was all about. And so from our perspective, it's really clear that actually what we're looking for is a single system in the delivery of public service. We can have huge innovation within that system that uses community organisations, Māori, other organisations to deliver those services, because they're going to do it a lot better than government will centrally, but we can actually deliver that all through one system.
Did you as a member of the caucus agree with the demand for the debate campaign?
Look, I'm not getting into that. That was before my time.
Chris Hipkins is being...
Can you just answer the question?
Sorry,
you were
Jason.
part of
Okay.
the caucus that put forward the demand the debate campaign. Did you agree with that?
Look, the reality for me is there needs to be a proper quality conversation around co-governance. That's what I've tried to kick off today. I'm being crystal clear with everyone. You may not like it, but I'm levelling with everyone to say we do not support co-governance in the delivery of public services. Now, we still have massive ambition and aspiration for Māori. We have huge desire to partner with Māori, but what we are wanting is outcomes. You cannot sit here and say that Māori or New Zealanders have not had a single improvement in any health outcome over the period of this government. And to not have a single improvement in health outcomes for another 5 years is utterly unacceptable in New Zealand. We have to get really clear with each other. We are in a turnaround job. We need to be able to deliver outcomes because that's actually what improves people's daily lives. And that's what we're fixated on.
How many Māori electorates are you going to run in?
Look, we're still working that through. Whether it's one or two, it'll be something like that, I suspect.
Does that show your level of ambition for Māori?
No, absolutely not. I think you've seen that I've got a massive ambition for Māori, and I think if you think about the people that are here and with us today, I've seen, we've got Dale Stevens, we've got David McLeod, we've got Dan Bidwell, we've got James Meager, we've had Tama Potaka and join us. We've got other candidates that are still going through selection as well. I want diversity in the bloodstream of the National Party, and so it's really about making sure that we've got good candidates that can make our case to people, and I appreciate it'll be tough in the Māori seats, but actually we still need to show up and present our centre-right politics, principles and beliefs to all communities across New Zealand.
Were you happy with your terrain out there?
Yeah, I was. I really enjoy it, but I do find it really hard. And so what I've been working really hard on is my pronunciation, and I know for fluent te reo speakers they'll still probably give me a poor grade, but I am working really hard at it, and I actually really enjoy it. I find it really... it's something I've always wanted to do for a long time.
Chris Luxon is being sworn in. Chris Hipkins is being sworn in.
I like the first idea. I think I like that first idea of where you're going.
Don't get carried away. Chris Hipkins is being sworn in as Prime Minister tomorrow. What's the first thing that he should do?
Oh, look, that's up to him. It doesn't worry me about who leads the Labour Party anymore. It doesn't worry New Zealanders, frankly, anymore. Because the reality is it's just more of the same team, and a government that's utterly just incapable of delivering. They may even have good intentions on a good day, but the reality is they just don't know how to deliver stuff, and they don't know how to get things done. And that's why I came to politics 2 years ago. It's because that's my frustration, having watched governments from outside actually seeing that poor execution. And these guys are so really New Zealanders want us focused on reduce the cost of living, raise incomes for all, make sure we restore law and order, and deliver better health and education. It's that simple.
Speaking of being unable to deliver, it sounds like the National Party still owe Rātana a water tank.
Yeah. I thought that was delightful though. But I really enjoyed that, right? Because it was great historical context, and it was really awesome. And we took our whole team into the temple before we came to the marae, and it was just fantastic. And just the generosity to be able to help explain and give us context and educate us, I thought was fantastic. And I just was really proud of my team that so many showed up and wanted to participate today. I thought that history was actually really important to be set, and it underscores that we're on this journey. But I just say to you all, look, the treaty brought us together as one people, do you know what I mean? And yes, it's been challenging, and yes, there's different interpretations of it, but if you go back to the origins of it, from both sides, there was a strong intention that this is actually what binds us together as one country. And so yes, it's been messy at times, and certainly the Crown has failed to deliver up to its obligations. But for me, going forward, I am determined that New Zealand does really well and realises more of its potential for Māori and for non-Māori. It's critical.
That's Jacinda Ardern's final day today. Do you have a farewell message for her?
Oh, look, I just thank her, and I just wanted to wish her all the very best. I texted and corresponded with her earlier in the week, and I wish her well. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
The whole time was just a session.